Okay, so dynamic efficiency. So we've covered productive and allocative, now it's time for dynamic. Dynamic efficiency does have a definition, but I wouldn't say it's the most important definition for you to know, but it can help with understanding how changing technology improves a firm's output potential over time. Now, monopolies have lots of negatives you're going to be talking about in your chains of analysis. For example, they exploit consumers with their monopoly power, therefore allowing them to charge higher prices, restricting quantity. But although monopolies have all these negatives, dynamic efficiency is the one massive positive of monopolies. As if a firm is being dynamically efficient, it means they are investing into research and development, so innovating, therefore improving long-run prospects for consumers. And just a little side tip, the way I always used to talk about dynamic efficiency is short-run costs versus the long-run benefits. So if the long-run benefits outweigh the short-run costs, you could say it's worth it for monopolies to exploit consumers in the short run if it positively affects them in the long run. And thinking about firms like Microsoft, Apple, and how dynamically efficient they are, although you could say previously in past decades they might have exploited consumers with slightly higher prices because they had that monopoly power, as there was such a small number of firms in that market. But now, as you've seen with the innovations with Microsoft, Apple, you could 100% say the long-run benefits were worth it. But one of the main misconceptions I've picked up over thousands of hours of tutoring students is this about dynamic efficiency. So, answer me this question. If a firm makes supernormal profit, does this mean they are dynamically efficient? Now, the answer is quite simple. It is no. But even if you knew why it is no, you need to make sure you explain this in a step-by-step manner to your examiner to show you know this. Now, this is wrong because a firm needs to fulfill two criteria to become dynamically efficient. Number one is the simple thing. They must have supernormal profits, so they have the ability to invest into research and development. But secondly, the one a lot of students forget about is they have to actively, and they have to make the decision, they have to use their discretion to invest those supernormal profits into research and development. And then there's loads of great examples of firms being very dynamically efficient. For example, Apple, like I said before, with the example of Touch ID to Face ID. And in 2022, Apple spent $20 billion on research and development. So it shows the degree to which they are dynamically efficient. A probably better example with Apple that just popped into my head is that 10% of Apple's profits are allocated to shareholders. Now, if profits go to shareholders, that means they're not used for investing into research and development. So a great evaluation point whenever you're talking about whether a firm is dynamically efficient, you can talk about how depends on how a firm allocates its profits. Because Apple, for example, gives 10% of its profits to shareholders, meaning it limits the degree to which they can be dynamically efficient. Because, of course, if they didn't give that 10% to their shareholders, they could be 10% more dynamically efficient. Now, if you did not understand that evaluation at all, do not worry, we will go into it in much more depth in a future video. So, one very common exam question you can get for 15 markers, 25 markers is how do monopolies threat with efficiency overall? Let's take a dive into that and let's see what that means. So, we'll start with productive. As you should be able to recall, this is where MC equals AC. So, let's just label up the points. MC equals AC at this point. Like we said, first step then, go down to find your quantity where you are productively efficient, so QProd. Then, from that QProd, keep going up until you hit your D equals AR curve, and this will now give you your price at where you are productively efficient. So that's productive efficiency done. Now, taking a bit of a deeper dive into productive efficiency. So, as we said, monopolies are profit maximizers. They produce our MC equals MR and charge price P max and quantity Q max. Now, if you look at the productively efficient price, it is lower than P max. It's lower than the price at where firms profit maximize. And if you look at QProd quantity, it's higher than Qmax. So the quantity are where firms profit maximize. What does this mean? Do you think this means monopolies are productively efficient? No, monopolies are not productively efficient. Why? Because they charge a lower price and a higher quantity, thus meaning monopolies are not productively efficient. Let's do the same thing for allocative. So allocative, of course, is where MC equals AR. Now, like I said, it's the simpler one of them too. So MC equals AR at that point. Then you go down for find your Q allo quantity. So a little side tip here I can give you from actually sitting the exam is make sure you draw your diagrams nice and big. Because as you can see here, I can't actually fit the Q allo quantity at where it should be. And don't worry about wasting paper. If you make your diagrams nice and big, easy for your examiner to interpret what you're speaking about, it'll make it easier for you to pick up the marks, and that's exactly what you want to do. Also, if you use colours, you need to remember in your exam, colours do not scan in everything. Your exam paper will scan in black and white. So for example here, it's very easy to see the difference between the quantity of the productively efficient and the quantity of allocatively efficient because of different colours. But you need to remember in your real exam, the colours will be exactly the same. So try to make sure to make them as clear as possible. But yeah, back to this. Of course, to find the price at where we're allocatively efficient, just go up from your quantity where you're allocatively efficient, then go left, and this will now give you a price where you're allocatively efficient. And again, same drill, monopolies are profit maximizers. They charge a higher price than P allo, and they produce at a lower quantity than Q allo, meaning that monopolies are neither productive nor allocatively efficient. And lastly, are monopolies dynamically efficient? They do have the box of supernormal profit here, so what I'm going to write next to dynamic efficiency is they can be. Because as we know, if they invest that box of supernormal profit into research and development, they can therefore become dynamically efficient. But that's overall how monopolies threat with efficiency. The main thing you want to remember, they're neither productively or allocatively efficient, but they can be dynamically efficient. Not that they are dynamically efficient, is that they can be dynamically efficient. But if a question like this comes up in your exam, you can show all this, develop your chains of analysis, you'll be scoring very highly.